to the speakers. But today, can you all agree that we are here to honor one another and have a great day of peaceful protest? Peaceful. Jehovah Shalom is one of the great identities and names of the name of our God that we worship. He is a God of great peace, so we will practice that today. Under our AFC tents, I want you to look around. There is a ring of aloha, like a lei of love. We have some tents right here. This first tent with the green canopy, I'm finding the notes. That is a t-shirt tent. So if you're looking at some of, Yvette had a great t-shirt. Yvette, can you be up here as my Vanna Brown, not Vanna White, Vanna Brown. We love all colors. But that's one of the t-shirts. We have short sleeve and long sleeve. And for a suggested donation, you can get one of yours and be a walking billboard for Aloha Freedom. Is she not doing a great job with that? Aloha is greater than fear. Turn it around, show them the other side. That's under that green tent right there. We also have membership tents. You see the yellow tents that say Aloha Freedom Coalition. You can sign up to become a member and get notices. I saw a guy at Starbucks this morning. He had no idea, even though he was wearing a certain red cap. I don't want to inflame anyone in the sound of my voice, so I won't say what kind of red cap. But he did not know that we had a rally today. You want to sign up to make sure you get those email alerts and those phone calls, and that's under the yellow tents. Next to that, we have the new Republican Party of Hawaii in the blue tent. In case you were wondering where the Republican Party of Hawaii went, they're right there today. Go, ask them the hard questions and support them. They're awesome and amazing people, and that's the new Republican Party. And then next to them in the green tent is the action tent. There are great actions you can take in being part of our Aloha Freedom Coalition. Number one, we don't pay you, but we're gonna ask you and deputize and license you to be shoppers. Yes, you're gonna go shop maskless. Imagine many of our wonderful women. Yes, I'm getting cheers from the women. So you can do that. You can be a sign holder. You can be many other things, but come and be part of the action. Last tent I'll refer you to is over there. It is further away under the tree. Can you wave at us, prayer warriors? We have had prayer covering this event for the last few weeks. And if you need prayer today, we highly believe in the power of prayer, in the breath of God coming through your body to speak prayer over one another. They are available right there. All right, are we ready to start the lineup of tremendous speakers today? Because I know you're in the hot sun. We do have some refreshments and a whole lot of waters chilling right there under that tent. Our next speaker saved a surfer with the last name O'Brien. I told him I'm not a famous professional surfer named Jamie O'Brien. I'm not even Conan O'Brien, but for some reason I am an O'Brien. I feel very safe in your presence. Jason Bitzer saved Jamie O'Brien in 2018 at Pipeline. He continues to teach in his off time. He says, never off duty. He trains other first responders to never be off duty. And he's never off duty. In fact, he's on right now. Help me to welcome Jason Bitzer up to our stage.
Hey guys, how's it going? You know, I had this whole speech plan and went over my outline and things of that nature. And it's just funny because you stand up here and I never thought, you know, I'm only near 40 years old. I never thought I was actually gonna have to speak out to defend rights that I already know I have. So, sorry guys, I'll repeat that. I never thought in my 40 years of existence that I'd have to stand on a stage and defend rights that I already know that I have. We didn't lose them. We didn't lose them. So, there's gonna be a lot of topics brought up and there's probably gonna be a lot of repeated topics. So I'm gonna stay off topics and keep on principles. Scarcity is value. It's one of the ways I live my life by, meaning my wife's very valuable to me. There's only one of her. My children are extremely valuable. So they're scarce, right? And if you use that same principle and you translate it to freedom of choice, well, it's one of the most scarce things going right now. And that being as it may, a lot of mandates, a lot of restrictions, a lot of oppression is extremely prevalent. So what does that make them? Extremely unvaluable. Because the supply and demand is inverse right now. So if you want to compare and contrast your day-to-day life to the things that are valuable, your home, your children, where you live, look at the land, the Aina that we're in right now. Why is Hawaii valuable? There's very little of it. That's why we all, whether you're like me and an ocean person or just someone that likes Malco, we're here to protect it. And that comes down to what? Inalienable rights. The land is all of ours. We need to protect it. So our rights are frontmost for all this. Now, I had a couple other things in here. It was actually odd. When I was coming over here, I had this, like I said, I had this whole speech, and what I wanted you to really focus on is what is of value. And what I was listening to with my wife, she's an environmental scientist, and it was about DDT. You guys know what DDT is? Okay, well, there was a book, Rachel Carlson, and it was about the use of DDT and how it was banned. So, in retrospect, we're all like, yeah, DDT, we all know that's horrible, and we should have never done that. And we should have never poisoned apple orchards, and shouldn't have poisoned our food, and given our kids irreversible damage to the soil, right? 2021, obvious, we should have never done that. But at the time, that wasn't it. It was the people like her who stuck her neck out. Death threats, smear campaigns, irrevocable damage to her personal, just her identity, changing of her identity, who she is, she's this, she's that, all because she was trying to bring a light to the fact that they were killing children just by eating an apple, by eating fruit. Okay, now, being as that may, we're kind of, maybe you could say compare and contrast, we're not as on point to that, but I say 10 years from now, we're gonna look back and go, how in the heck did they ever let that happen? Because hindsight is 20/20, right? The thing is, how things remain the way they need to be or change to where they need to go is the people that act when it's not really convenient. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I stuck my neck up, wanted to speak up. I've been thinking it, but what's thinking it? You have to bring it out to light. You gotta flesh these ideas out. Now, being as it may, we could have a difference of opinion here, okay, and that's totally fine. But you have the right to that opinion. You have a right to voice it, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. So do as you may, enjoy your freedoms, don't back down. Remember, scarcity is value. And you should apply that to everything that's going on now and everything into the future. Thank you, guys.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Once again, Jason Bitzer, one of our fine first responders and superheroes here in the state of Hawaii. You know, I was just notified of a great F word, one of my favorite four-letter F words to drop. Sorry, and I know Pastor Bill Stonebreaker is right here. Thank you, Pastor Bill and Danita, for your faithfulness. But it is free, okay? Can we say free? Jesus sets us free. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. There's free food, free snacks right there. They just came up and said, please announce we have water, we have refreshments, we have snacks, chips, tangerines if you're of the vegan variety. That's great, good for you. It's right there on that tent where we said the green tent, so it's all free. And as I say that, if you also feel led to make a donation to Aloha Freedom Coalition, freedom is not free. Sorry, I think you all know that. But we do need donations. For example, today we're going to be hearing from one of my personal and your personal great heroes, Mr. Dennis Prager. But of course, we need to pay for the flight. He has to martyr himself to come to Hawaii. It's really hard to convince people to come here. So if you can make a donation, that'd be huge for us. And donations are also at that membership tent, which is the yellow tent. Coming up next is a woman who has been fighting for righteous laws in the state of Hawaii. Megan Cow is no stranger to conflict. In fact, she recently ran in 2020 for Honolulu prosecutor, hugely successful with over 40% of the vote. Many of you are here who voted for her. I voted for her. Her legal career started in 2006 when Peter Carlisle, who was mayor and former Honolulu prosecutor, hired her as a deputy prosecuting attorney. Cow left the office in 2010, to work in private civil law firms before opening her own practice as a criminal defense lawyer. She is a freedom fighter with a very redemptive, inspiring past. Please help me to welcome one of the great freedom fighters at the front lines, Megan Cow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. What does it mean to you to be an American citizen in our day and age? What does it mean to you to be a resident of the state of Hawaii in this day and age? Have your answers to those questions changed in the midst of this pandemic? To me, being an American citizen means I need to follow the laws of the United States of America, yet I still get to exercise my constitutional rights. To me, being a resident of the state of Hawaii means I need to follow the laws of the state of Hawaii, yet I still get to exercise my constitutional rights. If you want to exercise your constitutional rights, you need to know what those rights are. For example, the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is Article 1, Section 7 of our Hawaii State Constitution, gives us the right to be free from an unreasonable search or seizure by the government. The Fourth Amendment right of the United States Constitution states the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Fifth Amendment right of the United States Constitution, which is Article 1, Section 10 of our Hawaii State Constitution, gives us the right to remain silent. In relevant part, the Fifth Amendment states that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. We as Americans, we have to follow the law. We have entered into a social contract where we allow the government to govern over us. We allow the government to make laws, and in exchange, we agree to follow these laws for the good of our society. We, as Americans, we give law enforcement officers the power and the authority to enforce those laws for the good of our community. In Hawaii, if you're pulled over by a law enforcement officer, the officer lights up the light, lights up the sirens, you have to pull over. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 291C23 requires it. And in Hawaii, if that police officer asks you for an identification, you have to provide it. Hawaii Revised Statute Section 291C172 requires it. But if that police officer asks you for a statement, you don't have to give it. You may, or you may not, exercise your right to remain silent. The Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 10 of our Hawaii State Constitution gives you the right to say, no, officer, I will not make a statement. And if that police officer asks you to search your vehicle, you may or you may not exercise your right under the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 7 of our Hawaii State Constitution gives us that right to say, no, officer, you may not search my vehicle. We all have these rights. These are not just slogans. These are not just things that people say or talk about. These are our constitutional rights that the government cannot take away. However, in some times we agree to give up portions of those rights. We agree to allow lawmakers to create law. And this is for the good of society. For example, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution gives us our right to free speech. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Despite this constitutional right, we cannot in Hawaii walk up to someone and say, "I'm going to shoot you." That's terroristic threatening. That's a violation of Hawaii Revised Statute, section 707715, and it's illegal. Another example is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 17 of our Hawaii State Constitution gives us the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment states, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Despite this constitutional right in Hawaii, as you folks all know, we can only possess our firearms in our home or in our residence. This is because Hawaii Revised Statute, section 134-25 says, "All firearms shall be confined to a possessor's place of business, residence, or sojourn, and you can only transport that firearm in an enclosed container and between certain places." So, although we have this right to bear arms, in Hawaii, we cannot walk down the street with our firearm. So I ask you again, what does it mean to you to be an American citizen in these times? What rights are you willing to give up as an American citizen, as a Hawaii State resident? Surrendering our rights can deprive us of our safety. Last year in July, I was attacked and I was unable to defend myself. I was walking down the street at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight, walking my dogs, when a man, homeless, yelling up in the sky, walked 25 yards over and attacked me. He jumped on me. 2 pedestrians had to help me pull him off. A couple months ago, I was attacked and unable to defend myself. I was walking again, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, when a man came up to me and ran and chased after me until I had to run through oncoming traffic. And a young kid came over and helped me. Every day, victims call me. They feel helpless and unable to defend themselves. This is not okay. This is not the Hawaii that I was born and raised in. This is not the Hawaii that I know. It's unsafe for our keiki and our kupuna to walk down the street in the middle of the day. The homeless population is growing to no end with no possible resolutions, no proposed resolutions. This is not okay. So the question is, can we bring change? Can we make a difference? Our community needs to start caring about the issues. Start educating yourselves on the politicians and their positions. What issues concern you? If you're concerned about crime, pay attention to the prosecutor's race. Ask hard questions. Make those candidates answer your questions. Are you for reducing crime? Are you going to charge all crimes? Are you going to protect our community? If you're concerned about the overuse of drugs on the street, pay attention to the Senate race, to the House of Representatives race. There are candidates out there that are trying to decriminalize the possession of crystal methamphetamine. There are candidates out there that are trying to decriminalize the possession of crack cocaine. There are candidates out there that are trying to decriminalize the possession of heroin. So find out who is against that. Who believes that possession of these very dangerous drugs should remain a crime and support that candidate. If this pandemic, the shutdown of the city has affected you, pay attention to the governor's race. Ask hard questions. Where do you stand on mask mandates? Where do you stand on vaccine passports? Ask ask them. Make them answer those hard questions. So, if the answer to the question regarding what you believe you are as American citizen includes the concern that your constitutional rights are being infringed upon, you need to take a stand. Educate yourselves on what constitutional rights you have. Educate yourself on where the politicians stand on these very important issues and take a stand. Mahalo. Thank you for much. Thank you for having me.
I feel good. I knew that I would. I feel good. I knew that I would.
I'm so glad I came today so that I can know how to say no to illegal arresting,
So
right?
good.
With all honor, all respect for our HPD, which we love you, the Blue. Megan, Kyle, can you give it up for her again? Can't believe she was attacked. One of the things I just need to point out is housekeeping this morning. We do have 3 restrooms if you get to that point because you've been drinking some of the free water. We have available under that tent, once again, free water, free refreshments, and tangerines and chips and all kinds of goodies right there at that green tent. There's one restroom all the way that way. So start planning your inter-island flight a few minutes early. For those of you who are over the age of 50 like Auntie Dawn, that's always a plan, right? So it's that way under the roof. There is another one that a ways. Again, plan your intra-island flight really well. Or there's a close one right here in front, but we don't call it the beach. It's a bathroom. Do not go in the water, family. That's just disgusting. Not that any of us ever did that, just hypothetically speaking. I read it in a college textbook. So there is one right here. It's a little more grungy. If you are needing a cleaner bathroom, again, that a ways and that a ways, but it is a ways a ways. Another piece of housekeeping. We have some orange cones right here. Thank you all for respecting that. I don't even need to announce this, but it is there so that we can have our professional videographers and photographers. They're blasting this on Facebook Live and on Instagram Live. Everybody cheer. Send out some aloha waves, some shock waves. And so that's why we coned off this area. And again, we are in a COVID environment is the wonderful way we had to craft the words, which means you can wear a mask if you feel so led. Also respect the personal touch of other people. They may not be comfortable with that. It's always nice to ask before you reach for the honi or the hug. And we are incongruent with the local mandates that our governor went against the CDC. It's just crazy to me that Governor David Ige No, with aloha. But on Star Advertiser, you see the top billing is Governor Ige says we will continue to wear masks. And right under that, literally under it on Star Advertiser, it says the CDC has canceled the mask mandate. I'm like, what state do we live in? I stopped watching Saturday Night Live years ago because it's not funny. But you'd almost think we live in Saturday Night Live land. You'd almost think that because it's either comedy, but it's our reality. All right, with that said, I'm going to introduce our very next speaker, and I'm sure the Stonebreakers are going to hear some cheering right here from the Samoan village of Stonebreakers. Pastor Bud Stonebreaker is a Stonebreaker. He breaks stony hearts with aloha. He's born and raised on the North Shore, literally was raised on the beach, lived there at Sunset, Ehukai, Pupukea, and Velziland, and still has the sand in his hair to prove it, I'm pretty sure. He traveled the world doing relief work and ministry. Today, Bud and his wife Karen and their 6 children are farmers in Waimanalo and still do ministry leading South Shore Christian Fellowship, one of the great pillars of God's truth that did not shut down during COVID against the law.
How's everybody doing today? Aloha! If you don't mind, I have some notes. I don't always have notes, but I wanted to have something to say to you today. I'm excited to hear from the other speakers. I'm also excited to hear from Dennis Prager, and I am so glad to see you today. Thank you for coming out. You know, as we look around, we can tell that we live in a very blessed place, yeah? The beauty of creation and the glory of God is all around us. But you know, that's only one part that we love about Hawaii. We also love our sense of ohana, that we are a family. We love our aloha spirit. And Hawaii is such a family-oriented place that even if you don't have a family, you'll probably be Hawaii into one. And if you don't have a family, you're probably be such a wonderful community. Unlike any other, isn't that right? But something has changed here in Hawaii. Something has happened. The aloha spirit is under attack. You know, the news just reported this past week on Monday that Hawaii tops the nation in worrying about COVID-19. It's our advertiser. It shows that roughly 80% of our residents, 4 out of 5 people, worry every day about COVID-19. It's about 20% higher than the national average, which is very strange because we have one of the lowest case rates nationally. People are afraid. People are scared, but there's no reason to be. And the problem with this is that fear and love are incompatible. You know, the Bible tells us that perfect love casts out all fear. And so it's reasonable to believe that strong fear, on the other hand, can quench and extinguish aloha, love. What's to become of Hawaii if we give way to this fear? You know, we have another saying in Hawaii, "Ua mau ke e o ka aina I ka pono," that the life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness. We must remember that our life, our lives, and our livelihood are perpetuated or carried along only by pono, only by righteousness. And without righteousness, we will not be able to move forward with our lives or our livelihoods without suffering. And it's tragic that the voices in our government and in our media have not been pono, they have not been accurate about this virus. It is not nearly as deadly as they initially told us, and while we were all worried and concerned in those first months, we quickly learned that the case fatality rate is closer to that of the flu rather than a deadly pandemic. They told us that the fatality rate was in the 3.4%. And so all the lockdown models were given to us. All the emergency mandates were called for. And initially we all agreed, we believed this. If this was something that could save lives, we will wear our masks, we will socially distance. We are glad to protect others. But as soon as we discovered that this virus is only as deadly as a bad flu season, we began to wonder, why are they doubling down on these edicts, on these decrees? They are unjust and unrighteous, sowing fear into our population and causing people to be afraid of one another. And the hardships that were caused when a person couldn't see their grandmother or grandfather when they passed away. Children who were not allowed to socialize and play in school. We can say with certainty that the restrictions as they continue are not pono. The emergency mandates are not pono. The lockdowns are not pono. The fear that we experience when we see law enforcement is not pono. We love our police officers, don't we? I probably shouldn't do this, but I heard a story about a couple of officers back in the old days when they rode together and they pulled somebody over for a speeding ticket, and when they went to the window, they found out they got his license, and the problem is when he went back to write his ticket, the officer had a problem, so he called the headquarters and said, I need to talk to the chief. And the chief got and he said, sir, you know, I got a problem. I pulled him over on Ke'omoku, but I don't know how to spell Ke'omoku. So there was a second that passed, and then the commanding officer got on and he responded, officer, just let him go. Pull him over on King Street. A friend of mine a couple of weeks ago